All right, everybody, welcome back to the Build Your Network podcast. Robin and Drew, thank you so much for joining me on today's show.
Thank you for having us. We're
Yeah,
excited to be here. Very much so.
yeah, really excited to talk with both of you. And you work in a pretty unique business, but I want to kind of give a quick background as to how you got to where you are right now. So take me back to really the beginning of your journey as entrepreneurs. And Robin, you can go ahead and start with that answer, but just kind of back to the beginning. How did you start on this entrepreneurial path and, not taking a traditional kind of 9 to 5 route?
Yeah. I mean, it has a lot to do with Drew. So Drew, and our old partners founded the company. And I think they were coming from a corporate place, and Drew specifically was like, let's do something that she feels passionately about, and it just resonated. She started the business on Instagram, and you can talk more about that, and I'll talk more about when I joined, on Instagram. And a lot of people back then were kind of looking, for people to follow and interesting things happening that are very unique and different from any like corporate experience or any big brand experience.
Right.
I guess fast forward to me, Drew and I used to work together at Urban Outfitters headquarters. I was the dress buyer. She was the dress designer. So, we worked together, and then I left the company, she left the company, and we kind of lost touch. But I was shopping in New York and the meatpacking, and I just saw this incredible display of like gorgeous statement pieces. And I was like, oh, what is that? Like, it's amazing. Like, let me go in there and try it on. And I remember it was like in this kind of like vending machine layout, which is, super new and different, especially considering like how luxe the jewelry is and like how intricately it's made. And I was like, this is beautiful. Tried it on, was like, oh, I'm buying this. And I remember even then they were like, oh, sorry, you can't take it right now. Like we do same day delivery. And it was very forward for that time. It was like 2013.
Yeah.
Went home, was like, oh, I can't believe they wouldn't let me take it. And like Googled it. And it was Drew. And I was like, oh my God, text her and was like, Drew, congrats. It's amazing. Love your jewelry. Like, thank you so much for creating this. Like wanted something like this, but it didn't exist. So that happened. And then, sorry, I'm always like staring at you. I'm always like,
I'm trying not to back,
yeah.
But I feel like Robin, her story and the way that she operates is really interesting. And she's so business minded. Like as a buyer, you have to be all about numbers, all about growth, all about moving a business forward. And I feel like the story you're telling like about Dylanlex, which is wonderful. And I think it inspired you to join the company and be my partner in like so many ways. But I think, you really wanted something that was meaningful. I think you were looking for that, like you were working to the bone and growing other businesses that you weren't really inspired by or didn't feel like you could impact in like a meaningful way. Yeah. And I think that's like,
thank you, Drew. No, she's right. I know. She's just like, because we're trying not to like, jump in. But Drew's right. I think at the end of the day, I'd worked for so many corporate companies. And honestly, a lot of these corporate companies were like, wait, we need something fresh and we need something new. And so I was always the person that they brought in, because I think usually it's hard for people to be business minded, but also like creative.
Right.
And I think like I am very creative for like a business minded person. Yeah. So I was always pushing the envelope and, making these companies like 30 million, another billion, but you just kind of like lose that sweet spot of excitement of like people actually doing what they believe in. And I think resonating with a bigger audience of like, oh, this is special and cool. This brand also believes in things outside of just the product and pushing the product to me. So that's kind of, long story short, why I'm here and why we're owning our own business as opposed to working for kind of that giant wheel and causing a wheel.
Right. What all plays into that decision to leave a successful career? Because that's something there's a lot of risk associated with obviously operating as yourself. You could be very comfortable in the types of jobs that you had before. What is it that you think kind of drives some people to step outside of that safety net and kind of go out on their own?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I can only answer for me, but I kind of know yours, and not exactly. I was getting physically ill. Like I was in New York and working all the time, and like, you're like inventing these things all the time, and the ideas and the marketing, and I was just getting physically like run down. So that was a big part of it, and also bored. Like, it's funny to think about getting bored when you're like the inventor of new ideas, but it is boring. Like, it is boring to keep pushing and knowing like this middle ground that you need to hit. But also, like, I was not well, like, physically. So those two things. Yeah. I mean, what about you?
I think you just realize that life is so short. I don't know. I think it's in the same way. Like, I wasn't getting physically ill, but I did have like a little life scare, and I was like, wow, life is so short. And I feel like as a creative, I was pushing a lot of ideas, and then kind of they were getting beaten down in the business that I was in. And I was really exhausted in that way, and was sort of just like, can I curse on here?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of like,
a show with entrepreneurs. It's going to happen.
Yeah. I was just sort of like, fuck it. Like, I have this idea. I know how to build something from start to finish, which is like, I think in the creative field, such a blessing. I think, I know a lot of people in the entertainment business, and what takes to make a show or something. It takes so many different people. And while making a product takes so many different people, I knew how to do it from start to finish. Like, I could sketch it. I could source manufacturers. I could link it all together. Like, I could do all of this stuff. And I was just sort of like, with a small amount of money, let me just see if I can do this, because why not? I'm lucky enough to have the ability to do it. And so I just tried, and 7 years later, like, here we are, and it's just such a blessing. So
yeah. Well, and you build that trust with yourself too, when you are building for other people, and you see, I am the one holding things together. I am the one taking it to that next level. What could I do if it was just me and I didn't have all the bureaucracy and things to dig through? And I want to talk about, obviously, your company now, because like I said, you are in a unique world, and it does take a lot of creative and business mind kind of blended together. So what was the inspiration for Dylanlex, and what was kind of the reason you decided to start this specific type of company?
The inspiration was, I think I grew up in a family and in an environment where, not intentionally, but I think, I felt smaller, and I felt like I had to be like this tough tomboy to prove that I could like make it in this like man's world. And I think accessories and styling myself in this very weird way really made me stand out, and people look at me differently. And, it gave me this edge. And I feel like people really gravitated towards it, and were asking me like, where can I like get this? Where can I dress like that? Like, how can I find this accessory? And I saw that people wanted it, and it made them feel the same way it made me feel, like tough and capable and strong. Like, I was just wearing this thing that reminded me that I could do everything anyone else could do. And I think, really,
I felt that way about it.
Like,
and that's it.
It's just like this piece that just makes you feel unique and like stand out, and like you can handle. And it sounds cheesy, and I think in the beginning I would be like, oh no, I don't know why people like it, but like I knew, like I knew that it made me feel good, and I could see that it made other people feel really good.
That's a good point. And I think, I think we're really similar in this way. Like, I also grew up in a really like tough, and you have to prove yourself type of family. And I think for me, like, you don't always want to communicate with your words. Like, sometimes, and I think that's the cool thing about dressing and fashion and accessories. You're choosing this thing that is showing everybody how you're feeling and what you're about, like, right away. And I think that's like why, Drew was my designer. Like, she was on my team. Like, I always like understood what she was going for and wanted that. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And if somebody didn't want it, I was like, but explain yourself, because I felt like her pieces were always like really artful, but like strong and like diligent, and made a statement very much like our personalities. So, and the personalities of the people who follow us and, love our product and love our thing. So
yeah, that brings so much clarity when you say it's a statement, because you always hear people say that, oh, it's a statement. It's a statement. And it does it. Like, when you just hear that, you're like, okay, yes, it got attention, but it is, it can mean so much. And that's a really interesting question, because one of the things we talk about a lot is like when you have a product, a product is one thing, people resonating with your product is another thing. And so how do you transfer the passion you're having over these individual pieces, these accessories? How do you know you have something that's going to be attractive to kind of the actual market? Like when you might be really passionate about something, but how do you have confidence that this is what people are wanting or needing?
Well, that's, I think, where what comes into play is like working in the industry for 5 to 7 years beforehand. And really, a lot of like these major companies like an Urban Outfitters, they study what the market wants. And you're studying all of these really high-end labels and how you can bring this to the masses and how you can get good margins and how you can be smart and like what was a bestseller and how to update that. And so I really had that at my core. And also like I'm a woman in the, you know what I mean? Like I want things and, I'm a very regular body type. Like I'm not built like a model. Like, I knew what I wanted for myself as well as like years of training on like how to kind of look at the market and design things that are thoughtful and flattering and, just make people feel really good. So I think it was just sort of like,
yeah. And honestly,
training.
Totally. And the answer really, it's so funny. You had like such a good answer. And in my head, the first thing that came up was you don't know. And that's the special part about owning your own business and being an entrepreneur and trying something new is you're not doing this formula. Like in big companies, you're forced to do this formula. Has to be this price. It has to be this cost. It has to have this trim. It has to be this length because they think that people like we've figured out people, but we haven't. And that's why there's always something new and cool that is going to be better because we haven't figured people out and people are really interesting and want new things that are different and risk taking. So you don't really know, but I think we trust ourselves because we are a customer. And it's funny because in retail or in fashion, they often say like, you need to be in touch with the customer. The merchant is the customer's eye. And it's like merchants over time just see the numbers. And it's like, well, no, if you really care about your customer and care about yourself, who is also a customer and a part of the world, then you do what you want and it will resonate.
Also, I mean, the fact that we kind of came up on Instagram really allowed us to talk directly to our customer base and our following. And like, we answer all of our DMs. We see everything that people are writing. So it's like really good intel for us for new collections and being like, oh, wow, everyone like really loved X, Y, and Z, but the price point was too high. Like we're always taking notes and we're always listening. And I think that's a really important thing that a lot of big corporate companies are kind of disconnected from.
Yeah, imagine that, like listening to what your customer wants.
Rare.
I'm curious because, you've obviously worked with many celebrity clients and, there is a part of this too, where you are educating people on what is fashionable, what is the style, what is the thing that they should be wanting. So what percentage of this also would lean into education, like trying to get people interested in something that they've never been interested in before, or trying something that might be outside their normal comfort zone?
Good question. I mean, we talk about this a lot though, like a lot. I mean, I don't know. They talk a lot about fashion about like the trend makers and the trend followers, which is something like we shy away from because everyone should make their own statement, which we truly believe. But I was just thinking about how a lot of people like love something, but then are shy about it. Like I'll hear a lot of customers say, oh yeah, like Drew can pull that off or like Beyonce can pull that off, but I can't, I don't know. I can't do it. But then you just like put it on them. We're like, well, for this moment, why don't you just like try it, like put it on, or like, let me show it for you myself. And then people are like, oh. So it's like interestingly, like not an educational thing, but almost a confidence thing. I think
we do a lot of like private clienteling and pop-ups. And I think, being in person or being online and having this personal experience where they see someone like them wearing the stuff or they're putting it on themselves and kind of playing around, I think is like the best way to.
I think so too. Yeah. But I guess, I mean, it's a lot. I can tell you a percent, but a lot. It's both. It's like, but you know how it is. It's like, how do you know that something exists without seeing it?
Yeah.
You can't, or without hearing about it, or someone telling you or showing you. So I would say a lot.
I don't know how to answer that question, honestly.
Yeah. No, I am curious because you do a lot of obviously the in-person, you're working with people directly. When you transfer to the online space and you're trying to get someone to picture something, that's a totally different experience than, if you go into a store and somebody just holds something up to you, it's a lot easier to transact right there because you're going like, oh, I see it. Whereas when you are seeing clothes or accessories or a product in the hands or on somebody else who's not you, how do you as an online marketplace as well kind of transfer that experience to the best of your ability?
I think it's about adding that human touch. So it's like not too curated. It's not on this perfectly styled human in this perfectly out of touch place. Like a lot of the marketing I've been doing on my own, and it's like in a messy corner of the room, and it's me making like really like kind of self-deprecating jokes about myself. There's like a human behind it. And so you can connect with the fact that like I feel awkward and, uncomfortable, but like, wow, look how good I look, like right. I think a lot of our marketing is very like, I don't know. It's just real.
It is humorous.
It's honest.
It's like a real person, you're engaging in that way. It's like Drew's talking to me or I'm talking, or the way that we're talking to you. It's just like, that's how we feel. We're talking to like one person and it happens to be that audience, a huge audience.
But we're not doing like big production shoots where everything's so like old school. I mean, I think for lack of better, it's a very old school. It's like you see something in a magazine, it's like gorgeous model who's like so out of like, it's just so far away from you.
It's like very aspirational. Whereas I feel like we're real humans, like beautiful things.
Well, those perfectly photoshopped images double down on this is not for you. Like when you're looking at that,
it makes you like, oh, that's beautiful, but I could never have that. It's like, no, you can't.
It is really funny how that works. And you are seeing a shift. I'm always surprised, when we put out content that is tons of B-roll and music and produced and it looks like a movie, no interaction. And then we'll throw up we'll pick up our phone and just walk around and do a live where we're stumbling over ourselves. Gets tons of interaction and DMs and things like that. And you see it across the board. Like I see even ads now, even in the food realm, I'll see ads now from companies like Domino's, and they'll post a greasy picture of their pizza where the box is not perfect, but it looks real. So people are interested in that. And it's interesting. I think it's just the social. I think people are getting tired of the overly glamorous kind of vibe that you see on different images from companies. But
absolutely.
I'm kind of curious. Obviously, this show's Build Your Network. So we always ask everybody this question. Do you believe that who you know or what you know is more important, and why?
Oh my God.
I always know the good questions when you both look at each other and nobody wants to say anything.
Well, because we went over this question and we're like, I think it just depends on how you use either. Like you could know all of the people in the world, but you couldn't know how to like connect with them or communicate your idea, or they're not getting it. And it's like, nothing ever happens. So I don't know. I kind of feel like it's an either or scenario.
I mean, we talked about this earlier and we basically came to the conclusion that you need both. Like, for example, Drew and I, like, we basically, like, we're the perfect example of a network that worked, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had worked together before. We had a bunch of friends in common, and they both were like, wait, what about Drew? Wait, what about Robin? We're like, wait, we've worked together. So we came together. But Drew made a really good point. Like, our expertises are so different, like, I mean, of course we have common ground in many ways, but Drew is this like genius creative, and she's like an excellent marketer and like can put together pieces that you would never consider that go together. And then I feel like I understand that. I don't know how to make it. I understand that, but I can do all the business. So I know how to be like make sales and be profitable and like have events to showcase this and like where people might feel nervous about something. So, but it's like both. Sorry, I don't know how to answer that question because it's like you need the knowledge.
Yeah. I think initially for me, like just starting the business, it was like all about what I knew because I couldn't rely on who I knew because everyone was like, oh, you're just going to have this tiny business and like how cute for you. Like it will be on Etsy. Like great.
Right.
You know,
I was just about to say, that's the expectation I think people would have initially before seeing what it became,
Yeah. And then I took what I knew and I applied it. And then it was sort of like, okay, people want to invest, people want to do this. And I was like, you know what? Fuck off. Like I'm doing this on my own. I'm bringing on people that I really trust and I love and they get the brand. And like, in that sense, what I knew was, Robin, I was really comfortable working with her. And she called me and was like, I love what you're doing. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is the right person,
Yeah. Well, that's such a huge moment to be able to get to a point where the people that were laughing at you now want to be involved. And you get to have the pretty woman moment of like big mistake, like we get to, and that's super neat. And it does. I think your actual story kind of shows that is there's a lot of people who know business or know how it works. But if you're not in alignment with them, it's not going to benefit you. You see this all the time with when you have 3 or 4 alpha salesmen in a room, they all know how to sell, but nothing else gets done because there's so much conflict over what should we do? What angle do we take? And, your relationship meshes perfectly,
And we trust each other. I think that is like the best example of networking because truly you're not going to go like network with somebody that you don't value their opinion or they don't inspire you. You are going to people that you trust and then they connect you with other people that they trust. And that basically happened to us with each other, but also our little circle was like, hey, Robin's Drew's looking for something, and it worked. So
yeah.
Yes.
Well, I want to ask one more question before we go into our random round, because, with our company Guestio, we talk a lot about credibility. So we talk about the importance of having well-known names connected with you and leveraging that credibility. And obviously, when you look at your site, that stands out. You've got some huge names listed out there. Chrissy Teigen, Usher, Jennifer Lopez, Lady Gaga, like some names people probably recognize. What has that done for your brand, being able to have that kind of celebrity face on the brand, those endorsements, and being able to share those with your ideal audience?
I mean, I think it makes our clients feel really good that these people are connecting with the jewelry and the statements as well. It's always weird for me because all of those connection points happened through social media. It wasn't like a paid thing. It was very like organic, like where their stylists have followed us and we become friends and, they're doing these polls and we kind of really see the back end. So I feel like I just look at everyone like a human being. And so it's nice to have on the site just to kind of vouch, to be like, hey, this person wore it. So like, it's real. We're not just like taking your money and giving you trash,
Right. Always good to know.
It's also very encouraging, I think, because we are designing these pieces and making these pieces and doing things for our business that we believe in. And so to have that kind of, I don't know if accolate's the right kind of word, but acknowledgement maybe from other leaders in their industry who are doing their own thing, what they believe in, making statements in their way, is very, very validating because it's like, oh, we didn't make some boring thing that was a formula. We did what we wanted and trusted ourselves, and that's what everyone should do, or if they want. Some people don't.
Yeah, and you're earning your way to that level, which is why you can sit there and it's not just this flash in the pan shock of like, oh, so-and-so just bought something, it's like you're getting to a point now where it's like, that makes sense. Like we're moving in this direction. It makes sense that these connections are going to fall into place and it's organically happening, which is super, super cool. I'm very excited to see the two of you tackle this random round. So we'll go ahead and get started. With you, Drew, on the first one. We'll just kind of cycle back and forth on these. But what profession other than your own do you think would be fun to attempt?
So I've always wanted to be an art teacher. Okay. I think education is one of the most important things that we don't pay enough attention to, like kids' development. And I think art is just really cool because For me as a kid, sorry, there's a dog.
Yeah.
For me as a kid, I was really bad at math and all the things, and I could just draw, and it was like,
Same,
made me feel good about myself. Yeah. And I feel like my art teachers were always so, I don't know. I just always had such a good relationship with them. They made me feel like I could do anything. And I think I don't know. I always just wanted to be an art teacher. So.
And you'd be great. You'd be great. You can do that in retirement.
It's a dream of mine.
Yeah. Is this your announcement? You're quitting? You're becoming
this is my announcement. I'm leaving. I am finger painting for the rest of my life.
Robbin, what about you?
I would want to be a TV host. A TV show host. I think I really like, and it's funny now that I think about it, it makes sense. Like, Drew loves educating, and I do too, but in a different way. Like, I love showcasing people and their talents and asking them a gazillion questions and learning from them and like kind of showing them off, because I find that most like brilliant people or like artists like are very, very shy, and they won't give themselves pats on the back. And I think it's really cool to be like, let me be your loud ass voice that you don't have, so that people can see your brilliance. So I think, that maybe.
You should start a podcast.
I'm like, I like your reason why. At first I was like, what? And then I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Well, I don't know if do you guys remember Huell Hauser's California's Gold? It's very
Yes. Yeah.
And he was like one guy.
My mom hated that show, and me and my dad loved that show.
I loved that show. But he just like goes to cool places, and literally 90% of the time his back is to the camera. Like, you can't even see his face because he's so curious about whoever is guessing.
It's the most normal people that have really cool stories. Yeah. Super. That's awesome. If you could sit on a park bench with anybody, past or present, and talk to them for an hour, who would it be, or and why? Robbin, I'll start with you since you look like you're not sure.
Okay. Well, mine's very silly. I said Benjamin Franklin, or I would say Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
No, that's like so random, but I'm like, oh God, is he a misogynist? But but when I was younger, I like read a biography on him, and I just thought he was such like a curious person who like did whatever he wanted. Like, oh, let me like figure this electricity thing out. Oh, let me figure out music. Like, let me go to France and like see what is art, let me tinker with all the things. And I think like I'm very curious about that kind of person where it's like no holds bar. They just like are curious about something and they figure it out and do it. I think the action part is really interesting. He just like does stuff, instead of just like reading and learning. He like gives
receiving information. He's like actioning.
Right. Yeah. Because it's like I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of people think like when they're learning and taking information in, that's like an action. Yeah. And it's like, no, that's just.
I mean, it is enough for some people.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, okay.
Drew, what about you?
Mine would be probably Toni Morrison. I just feel like I would just hug her. Mm-hmm. Come on. I feel like it's just women that are gone through so much and can feel so deeply and have such good perspective. And she's just like someone I have always greatly admired. Awesome. Just hug her.
Yeah. Gives so much poetic, like your mind and heart and soul. Yeah.
How do you like to learn best? Consuming information. What's the best way? Books, blogs, podcasts, audiobooks, videos. What's the best way?
I'm very visual. So videos, books, I think are my number one way of receiving information. Robbin, what about you?
I think it depends for me. Like, if I'm driving like a long distance, then I'm all about podcasts, because that's like when I'm most focused. And then I love like short form videos. Like, that's why I like love TikTok, because I feel like you search really quickly, you speed through. Like, I've always loved TikTok. I loved YouTube before that. Like I love that you can just search the thing and it's quick and it makes people very efficient in the way they communicate, which I like.
Yeah.
But also, I guess, I don't know, movies and video. It really
all
depends.
Things.
Yeah, sorry. I'm like,
all the things.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
What is your morning routine? Robbin, you can start this one off.
Oh my gosh. Well, I like get up pretty early. I have this standard poodle that is my best friend in my life right now. But he like jumps onto my bed and then we snuggle for like 30 minutes, get coffee, and then literally I make a to-do list the night before.
Okay.
and then I prioritize it, and I go out to do those things. Yeah.
Sure.
What kind of to-do list? Like a work to-do list or like personal? I'm like, what to-do list? Like go get coffee, walk around the block. Like what is this?
Make to-do list.
No, but I literally, I don't know. Like for some reason, right before I go to bed, I like get a slight bit of anxiety because I'm just like, oh, I have so much to do that, or more than that, so much I want to do.
Yeah.
And how am I going to execute it? So I'll write down all the things like, oh, set up the marketing for 2024. Like what are our 3 priorities for 2030? Like what do we want to do? Talk to Drew about this. And then I will write like, drink the coffee, like get the coffee's in here.
Drink the coffee.
The coffee's in here. Get flowers for my mom. Like I write them all down and then I like number them. And then I wake up
in order of priority.
In order of priority.
Wow, Robbin.
Wow, Drew, top that.
Very different.
Someone asked me on a podcast I was on. They said, "What's your morning routine?" And I was like, "Survive." That's my morning routine. My morning routine.
That's my morning routine as well. Coffee. I can't function without coffee. And then usually I'll just go for a quick walk around the block because I just need fresh air. I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, and it just needs to be outside. Honestly, if I don't get that that moment, I'm just like I can't function for the rest of the day.
That's good. It's like a meditation.
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel about snuggling Teddy. It's like meditative.
And then just like get dressed really quickly and start work.
So when you're getting dressed super quickly and you are racing off to work, what is the pump up song that you're playing?
I mean, it changes by the month. I get obsessed with the song, but right now, Annie Lennox, Little Bird? Is that the song?
Is it?
I've been listening to it on repeat.
Lennox is so good.
Annie Lennox is a phenomenal person, and so she's my pump up.
I love how all your things are like mellow, and mine are like ugh. Mine's like Fashion Killers by A$AP Rocky. I don't know. It just like talks about like fashion and his girl and how she loves fashion, and I don't know. It's
you and your dog,
literally me and my guy. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like fun, and the way that he talks about it is like, this is very materialistic, but she'll buy this Fendi bag, but it's not for her; it's for her kids in the future. I just like the concept of like an investment of something beautiful that's long lasting. Anyway,
that's super on brand. That's great. What is something that you're not very good at? And Robbin, you can start this one off.
Oh God, we talk about. I'm really bad at saying no. Like anybody, I know, and everybody who's an entrepreneur and in business is like, you need to learn to say no, and you need to prioritize. And like, I feel the opposite. Like, I say yes to everything. If I have like 3 minutes, I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll pencil this in at that time. So. Yeah, but that's can be unhealthy. I get. So my time is very filled. But yeah, I'm bad at saying no.
Yeah. I would honestly say the same thing.
I think you too.
I would say exactly the same thing. And also just like schedule. I think it goes hand in hand with not saying no.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I have my own things to do, but when you run a company, you kind of want to be very available for everyone else. Yeah. And so oftentimes and then I'm working very late.
Yeah. Drew is though always on time, and this is kind of a funny difference between us. Drew's like always on time, and she says she's bad at scheduling, but she's always on time. Whereas I am always late, and I think it's because I'm like, oh wait, let me give you that 3 minutes, and then I'm suddenly 15 minutes behind to whatever the next thing is.
Right.
But yeah, we're both bad at that.
What is one place online where people can connect with you the most? And obviously I'll put a link to the website, the main website, in the show notes. But if people want to follow you individually, get to see your specific tastes and interests and your updates, what's the best place to do that?
Robbin's on OnlyFans. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Now I have to mark the episode explicit.
Like,
right.
Yeah, I opened an account. I'm actually really.
How'd you know?
That's what funds our business, actually. My own.
No. I think our Instagram is like our most accessible. We're on that daily.
Yeah.
So
Dylanlex.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We are on that more than anything, I would say. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, perfect. If you're listening to the episode, be sure to head over to the link in the show notes. Go check out the Instagram over there through the link. And thank you, both of you, for jumping on and taking the time to do this. I know we ran a little bit long, so I know you're going to run late to your next thing. Sorry for messing up your schedule, but I'm so glad we made it happen. So thank you for saying yes.
So much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. What a pleasure and a joy.
Awesome. Thank you so much.